Is he coming or?
I think he's zooming. He's zooming, but he's not, he has not yet zoomed.
Okay. We'll call the meeting to order.
Mayor, if I could remind everybody in their mics to speak right in the mic, on the microphone. Evan, tell him on the microphone.
Oh, yeah, speaking to Mike.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I tell you what, I'm gonna take this thing off for the time being. We'll call the meeting to order. Mr. Veronica, would you like to do the invocation?
Let's pray.
I don't think so.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we give thanks tonight. We give thanks for our community. We give thanks for all the blessings that you've bestowed upon us. And we ask you, Lord, to lead and guide us in the right way to do the right thing for the citizens of Winterville. We know that you've entrusted us with a lot of responsibilities, and we accept these, but we ask for your guidance. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Well, we'll welcome all this crowd that's here tonight. All righty. Item number 4 is approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as written.
Moore would like to second.
Mayor, I believe we have a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Hines, seconded by Councilman Moy to approve the agenda as presented. With that, I will poll the board, starting with Councilwoman Robertson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hines,
Yes.
Councilman Moy,
Yes.
and Councilman Smith.
Yes.
I believe we have all votes, and I don't think Councilman Moore is with us. Let me check.
Okay.
Hold on, Mayor. I don't think we, Mr. Moore's not with us, so you have all votes in favor of approving the agenda. So the agenda is approved.
Okay. All right, item 5 is items for discussion. Okay, Ms. Parker?
All right. Good evening, folks. I hope everybody is doing well. I welcome our Assistant Town Manager, Mr. Williams, with us this evening. We added this item. We have a couple, or actually 3 pieces of equipment that you all approved in this current year's budget that through hard work and making sure that we got specific pieces of equipment that we were looking for in the way of a knuckle boom truck, a leaf vac or grass truck, and a street sweeper. We are ready to ask for your approval to move forward with purchasing these items and using one of the purchasing co-ops that we have utilized in the past. With that said, I'll turn it over to Mr. Williams.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As the town manager said, council approved for this fiscal year's budget the purchase for 3 public works pieces of equipment. The first one in your agenda is for the knuckle boom replacement. The town received a grant to pay for half of the replacement vehicle. It was a part of a Volkswagen diesel grant program to get some of these older trucks off of the road. This replacement will be a little more efficient and more environmental friendly, if you will. So part of a component of that grant is we have to destroy the old one. So we're still using it, but once we get the new one in, we'll have to destroy the old one. But this item is for requesting approval to utilize the Sheriff's Association Purchasing Cooperative to purchase the knuckle boom truck as quoted by Hangman Equipment. And we will, once we receive the equipment paid, we will then submit a reimbursement to get the money back through that grant program.
So you need a motion to,
We're going to need a motion.
on each separate,
For each
okay.
individual motion to
All right.
approve the purchase. Yes,
Okay, all right. So, if you're finished, then I'll make a motion that, we accept the presentation on the knuckle boom truck.
Mayor Pro Tem Hines, I think we are moving to approve to purchase the knuckle boom truck for the prices stated in your agenda packet with AMIC. Are they AMIC?
AMIC equipment.
AMIC
AMIC equipment, right,
through the North Carolina Sheriff's Association Purchasing Co-op.
correct.
I'll second Robertson.
Mayor, you have a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Hines, seconded by Councilwoman Robertson, to approve the purchase of the knuckle boom as so presented in your packet with AMIC equipment through the North Carolina Sheriff's Association Purchasing Co-op. And with that said, I'll poll the board, starting with Councilwoman Robertson.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I
need
just
for
got one.
discussion.
I just have one question.
I was gonna say, is there any discussion?
I'm sorry, I skipped that part.
Thank you, man. My question is, I noticed that we're doing it through the North Carolina Sheriff Association compared to what we used to do with the state contract. Is the interest rate is the same? I know that this right here give us a better opportunity to take beyond the state for, compete on prices.
Right.
But I'm asking you, is this right here is done, but we do our own interest from a private institution, don't we?
Right.
When we get ready to,
If I recall, we're paying for this outright through our fund. And the state contract, the Sheriff's Association and the state and some of these other purchasing cooperatives are a national competition versus some smaller pot of vendors. This is the best price that we could find, that we went through that process, especially on the knuckle boom when we were writing the grant back in, that was like 2019. Went through that process and found that this was the best price for the piece of equipment that we need.
Councilman Moy, we found years ago that going with the state contract price is not always the lowest. So staff does a good job of trying to reach beyond just state contract pricing to ensure that they're looking for the lowest price. We were granted the ability, not just Winterville, but municipalities a few years ago to utilize some of these purchasing co-ops. And I know that we've done that on several occasions with previous equipment that we've purchased, and we found that in certain circumstances, it proves to be as beneficial to us as the state contract pricing process.
thank you.
If I could interject here for
Yes.
just a brief moment. Part of Mr. Moy's question sounded like it was referring to financing. And so just all three of these vehicles are being funded with debt financing. However, that was bid out previously, and the funds have been set aside and are waiting for the purchase. Once this was vetted, and the funds have been set in a reserve account, and the funds are available for all three pieces of equipment that are on your agenda tonight. The council approved the loan, and it was with BB&T. They had the lowest interest rate when we went out for our bid through our RFP process, and that has already been approved by the council, and the loan has already been closed, and the funds are available and waiting for this decision to be made on the purchase of the equipment.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Ansley.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if there are no
I'm
further,
manager, this is Chief Will Hyde. I may have something that is a little bit valuable. When Mr. Moy talks about state contract, and we found this with police vehicles, a lot of things that are on the state contract, the Sheriff's Association has a lot of additional vehicles and pieces of equipment that are not on the state contract, so they aren't always the same.
That's good information. Good.
thank you, Chief.
Any further discussion?
Okay, Mayor, I'll poll the board, starting with Councilwoman Robertson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hines,
Yes.
Councilman Moy,
Yes.
and Councilman Smith.
Yes.
I don't see Mr. Moore has joined us yet, so Mayor, we have all votes in favor of approving the purchase of the knuckle boom as stated. Okay, yeah.
The next item is the purchase of the leaf truck, grass truck, depending on what time of year it is. It's getting ready to be a grass truck because the grass is growing and leaves are just, they've stopped falling. We are proposing to utilize the same Sheriff's Association purchasing cooperative to purchase this piece of equipment. That funds were allocated in this year's budget, and as Anthony reminded me, it was included in that funding package that was a financing package that we put out the RFP, and DDT came in with a great quote on that. This piece of equipment is old, it's used all year long, whether it's for grass or leaves. Right now, it's hemorrhaging fluid, so it's beyond repair. They just keep pouring fluid in it and keep it going until we can get this replacement online. We will then surplus the old leaf truck, if you will. So, looking for the same action from council.
Anyone have any questions or?
I make a motion that we approve 2 and 3, including the street sweeping truck.
I second that, Councilman Hines.
Mayor, we have a motion made by Councilman Smith, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Hines to approve items 2 and 3, which would be the purchase of a leaf vac / grass truck and a street sweeper, all for the prices that have been presented to you in your packet both through the North Carolina Sheriff's Association Purchasing Cooperative. Any discussion?
Only, I just have one question for Ben, for you. When would these vehicles arrive? I like this as far as,
All three of them have different schedules.
Okay.
Some of it is due to the microprocessors that go in these vehicles. We actually have one that can be here in 2 weeks.
okay,
We have one that can be here in 2 months, and we have one that can be here in around October, November. So it varies.
okay.
We're looking for, if I recall, the leaf truck. The knuckle boom will be the latter. The leaf truck, I believe, can be here in a couple of weeks, and the street sweeper is a few months out of it.
Okay, that's, no,
I will say that we will take possession of all 3 pieces of equipment in the new fiscal year 2021, 2022. However, we will encumber the money in this current year's budget and then roll those encumbrances over into the new year.
okay.
Mayor, if there's no other discussion, and I believe Councilman Moore has joined us, I'll start with the polling of the vote. Councilman Moore, we are voting to approve the purchase of both the leaf vac / grass truck and street sweeper. I'll start with Councilwoman Robertson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hines,
Yes.
Councilman Moy,
Yes.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
and Councilman Moore. And you may be on mute, Councilman Moore.
Yes.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening.
Mayor, with that said, I believe we have all votes in favor of the approval of the purchase of both the leaf vac / grass truck and street sweeper. Woo! Thank you, Ben.
All right, hopefully we'll be seeing those 2 pieces of equipment rolling around town, so, thank y'all.
Thank you, Ben. Okay, the next item is the update on the budget to date.
Mayor, members of the council, you all received a fairly detailed update on the current year's budget in the vision setting meeting. But I've asked Mr. Bowers to just go over any additional information on the current year's budget that he would like you to know this evening. And with that said, I'll turn it over to Anthony.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Basically, we updated, the council back in late January, early February, I forget now, when we kicked off the budget process. And essentially, the town is still in very good shape. For the current fiscal year, there's not been a whole lot of change to that update. We're still ahead in key areas such as ad valorem property tax, motor vehicle tax, sales and use tax. And as you may recall, when the town discussion had discussion of potential rate for the employees, that we provided numbers on that. And so we're still way ahead in those areas. The largest decrease, I would say, is from a percentage standpoint at least, is our interest income. I mean, that's just way down compared to what we had anticipated when the interest rates dropped out. So there will be some minor changes that come down the pipe with a budget amendment before the end of the year. But currently, there's no major change to any of our budgets. All the enterprise funds revenues are on target, just like we had budgeted, and either they're going to meet or slightly exceed. So no gigantic bumps that I'm aware of as far as revenues go, but they will at least meet what we were anticipating and what we budgeted. And so on the appropriation side, or under budget, there's again still no major issues anywhere within the budget, and probably at a very comfortable position for the town as we roll into year end, at closing out the fiscal year and moving into the next fiscal year. There is one item that we've probably heard about, which relates to funding associated with the American Rescue Plan. The town is anticipating to receive $2,910,000. Those funds will be distributed over 2 years. So this May we'll receive our first allotment of $1,455,500. And currently, there hasn't been a whole lot of guidance on these funds. Most of what I've been able to understand is they're limited to basically 4 key areas: water and sewer infrastructure, broadband infrastructure, and then some potential reimbursements for work associated with people who are deemed essential workers during the height of the pandemic. And so as we move forward, we're going to, obviously be looking for projects. I think the CARES Act funds would have taken care of most of anything that happened during the pandemic. We received $140,000 for that. So we're currently, as the council moves forward to try to identify projects, keep in mind that these funds will come over 2 years. And so when we received the funds in May, we basically decided that we will be entering this as a deferred revenue, and so we won't hit our budget here, and then we'll bring that revenue onto the books next year when we have time to vet it and find out exactly what project that we can engage in that the town will qualify for as we move forward with this, working with these funds. That's basically my update for tonight. Pretty straightforward, and stand by for any questions.
Can you put that in writing? You kind of breaking up some
Yes.
as far as,
Yes.
okay,
We're going to go back over that in my,
okay.
and you have some of it in this handout that we've given you tonight.
I was breaking up during the.
Yes. Yes, sir.
A little bit, Anthony, yeah.
Is it worth me coming down to the council chambers and repeating it?
No, it's fine.
I think we'll go over it again to some extent here in just a minute. So maybe you could interject at that point if I failed to mention anything.
Okay.
Thank you, Anthony.
No problem.
Mayor, if it's okay to move into the progress, or budget progress for the upcoming fiscal year? Is that okay?
Okay.
Folks, you all have a handout of your seats. I also have the handout up on the overhead for you, or projector for you. These are the notes. The format is much like we've used in previous years, but we just want to go over, and Anthony put together the majority of this information. We kind of want to go over where we are and what we anticipate in terms of revenues specifically for the upcoming 21-22 budget year. Obviously, the budget is in the works. We anticipate a draft being delivered. That should say on or about the 22nd. I realize May 22nd is a Saturday. It could be delivered on Saturday to you, but we will certainly try to have it on or about the 22nd to you in a draft form. You all were presented and approved a budget calendar previously, and other than some internal changes in terms of when departments submitted their budgets, etc., the meeting times and whatnot remain the same for your information. We want to just remind everybody of our current tax rate, and that's 47.5 cents per $100 valuation. First National Insurance, what you all hear us commonly refer to as Carolina Benefits. They have been reporting in more recent days that the Blue Cross Blue Shield renewal rate for the town will be just 2% this year, this upcoming budget year. That's unheard of, and that's the lowest that it's going to be since I've been here in almost 12 years. MetLife, which is our dental insurance carrier, is currently quoting 0 increase for the upcoming budget year. So that's great news, and it looks like that we will be able to maintain our benefits and maintain them at minimal cost to the town and employees. Anthony, just jump in if I missed something. Our property tax budget will be calculated at the 98% collection rate, which is our normal collection rate in more recent years. Last year, if you'll recall, we budgeted tax revenue at a 97% collection rate due to the unknown impacts or potential impacts of COVID-19. I got an extra I there. Currently, you see our valuation numbers and then the new valuation numbers given. If the growth remains revenue neutral, we would yield approximately $170,000 plus of additional ad valorem revenue for the upcoming year. Sales and use tax, Anthony denotes, and it's true, that's a difficult item and will continue to be a difficult item to budget for. Last year, there were increases driven by predominantly stimulus funding in the housing market in Pitt County. The revenues do run on about a 3-month lag. Economists are expecting recovery from the pandemic through the end of the calendar year. However, the second half of the year still will remain uncertain. The league, they give us their estimates, if you will, of what we should do with state shared revenues, and they have provided those. They are recommending that we use about a 2.5% growth factor, and that would generate an estimated increase in the amount of $461,821 over the original budgeted revenue for the current year. Power bill estimates are expected to remain where they were or what we received during fiscal year 2019-2020. We received more in 2021, so therefore we are going to probably expect to receive a reduction in this revenue for 21-22 around $23,000. So we'll see a slight decrease in those revenues. Utility franchise revenues are expected to remain the same as they are currently for this year. They're expected to be approximately $341,000 thereabouts. It's a reduction of the prior year estimate of $369,000. It's a decrease in revenue of about $32,000, and I'm obviously rounding them off to larger numbers. Building inspections, they continue to be busy based on conversations with developers. As you all see, building is moving forward and growth continues. We anticipate the revenues from that department to remain flat at around $152,000. Moving on to page 2, Anthony touched on this earlier. We anticipate interest income will be flat with no increase in interest rates expected. All other general fund revenues are expected to be flat or slightly higher for the upcoming budget year. We have 2 debt service payments expiring in 21-22. The first is a recreation payment in the amount of $19,219 for vehicles, and the second is one for $33,600 for police vehicles. And this is a reimbursement to fund balance. We will have 3 new debt service payments coming on board at the beginning of the new fiscal year, and they are for public works equipment in the amount of $94,116. A fleet vehicle we purchased in the amount of $8,941, and our new ERP software in the amount of $70,394. The fire department grant reduction will cost an additional $130,000. That is an increase on our part being picked up. And then back to what we were just currently discussing, the American Recovery Plan funds, we anticipate to receive around $1,455,000 for over the next 2 years. I have attended workshops put on by the league. I've been reading blogs put out by the School of Government, and the guidance on these grants and the guidelines associated with them just aren't really specific, other than the large batches of projects or categories that Anthony referenced previously. We've been given sort of 10,000 foot level guidance, but in terms of specific guidance, when we can spend, what we need to do, we don't have that yet. So we're not making plans to spend it yet because we're not exactly sure what we can spend it on, but we've been told one thing, absolutely, expect an audit of the expenditure of these funds. So we have no problem with that, but we just want to know what the guidelines are so that we can then share those with you and make plans accordingly. Anthony referenced the CARES Act money that we received. We received those and submitted those to the county for reimbursement of salaries for certain departments paid during in the beginning of the pandemic. We're still trying to weigh in on if that money has to be spent a certain way, is it classified as a reimbursement, and, how we account for those as well. And then ultimately, we'll be bringing forward the guidelines as we get them, but I don't know that they have been finalized in detail yet. Anybody have any questions on that?
Yes, I do. I know I keep hearing the word infrastructure as far as the monies that are coming down as a result of the COVID and, all the monies like that. I know you probably don't know, but I'd like to know if they could be used for any shortfalls in your budget.
I don't think so.
Like Powell bill monies that would be used for streets,
My understanding is that no, that they can't, it could be used for certain projects, but you can't basically use it to balance the budget, if that's.
Well, what I'm saying is like just Powell bill money, would it get less of that? So, and that would be infrastructure money to me.
I think the infrastructure we're hearing is water and sewer infrastructure. I'm not aware, we've even asked if they could clarify whether stormwater would be allowed in that, and we've not heard any specifics on that. I'm not sure that other infrastructure projects will be allowed.
Because I was also thinking about the Nobel Canal project.
That's why we
have
ask
going
about
on,
stormwater, because of the massive work that needs to be done on Railroad Street and Noble Canal and other stormwater projects. But currently, right now, we don't even have a weigh-in on that. And when I say we, all municipalities, I mean, we're all collectively asking questions, and folks at the federal level know that we need answers. They're just trying to figure out what those are.
And I've heard that there's a our level of accountability with the use of these funds, so.
But as soon as we know specifically and have it in writing, we'll definitely push that out to everybody so you know what you're dealing with in terms of how they are to be expended.
We have not received those funds yet, though, have we, Ms. Parker?
No, sir, they're supposed to be paid in 2 payments. I
Right.
believe the first payment comes, Anthony, around May maybe of this year.
Yes, that's correct. That's what I'm hearing.
Okay.
And then I think the second payment comes 12 months from the date of the first payment.
That's correct.
So again, that'll be over 2 fiscal years. Obviously, we have to figure out how to account for those because there's no specific offset for the revenue that's coming in. So there's some challenges associated with what we do with it once we receive it.
Is those funds handled directly to the municipality themselves, or they handled through the county?
They will not be handled through the county. My understanding is it coming through the state, Anthony?
Yes, I believe that to be the case.
I think these funds are coming through the state. The CARES Act came through the counties.
That's right.
CDBG monies that are available for utility payments and rental assistance payments came to the county. If you were not what you call them, Don, entitlement city. I know Greenville got a specific allocation. We're considered in with the county. I know the county has put their program together. I will get information out to everybody on if you have people or know people that need assistance, how they can go about trying to ask for that information. So, Councilman Moy, did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions about those COVID-related funds? All right, moving along in the handout, we're now going to scoot over into the enterprise funds, which are our electric, water, sewer, stormwater. Water revenues are expected to increase slightly with an estimated growth rate of 1%, which is what we have been historically using in more recent years. Water sales are estimated to be approximately $1,500,000. Sewer revenues are expected to increase slightly with an estimated growth of, again, 1%, showing sewer sales to come in approximately $2.3 million. I do want to notate that obviously we're a member of the Contentnia Metropolitan Sewerage District. We will actually see a slight decrease in our contribution to the district this coming fiscal year of about $56,000. The current year's contribution was budgeted at $1,068,182. I got budget information. We have a meeting this week. Winterville's contribution is initially estimated from the district to be $1,011,902. What I did notate, and Councilman Smith, I don't know if he's had a chance to look at it, is that both Ayden and Grifton are seeing somewhere between 44,000 and 50,000+ increase in their contributions respectively. It was a wet year. Obviously, if you've got infiltration and flow in your system, it's going to show differently than if your system's tighter. I think all entities are working on their respective collection systems to try to make them as quote-unquote tight as they can be, but certainly we will see the benefit of the flow-based charging system this coming year with a slight reduction in our contribution. There will be new debt service starting coming on board for the current sewer rehabilitation project. That's the gravity and collection system work that's ongoing in the amount of around $160,000. Electric revenues are expected to increase slightly using an estimated growth rate of 1%, showing electric sales to come in at approximately $6.4 million. And stormwater sales growth is expected to be flat using the same 1%. However, stormwater revenues will increase from $503,588 to $509,624. So from an overall perspective, aside from any COVID-specific monies that we have come in, we're looking at budget revenues much the same as the current fiscal year. And I anticipate a budget process that's going to be very similar to the ones we've used in the last couple of years. Can I answer any questions for anyone?
Our report from the department is, I noticed that part of our agenda, and it seems like it keeps growing and growing. When can we get some of these projects off that list?
Are you talking about the regular agendas
Yes,
list?
in our meetings, the report from the department is, and really, the updates on various projects.
Well, that's a great question, because some of those are only up there because council wants to see them up there every month. There are some that can probably be taken off because the amount of forward progress is negligible at the moment. In other words, if we've got a project that's on the back burner, we could probably take it off until it gets ramped up again. I mean, we're happy to reduce them in total, but some of these aren't going to be complete for some time.
That's what I'm asking. Can't we complete some of these? Can't we complete them so that they can be completed projects rather than they keep on, going on? And one of those is that cemetery. We've got citizens, we're not selling any pots, right?
We don't have any to sell, and
Yeah.
granted, I mean, we're working to try to get that completed. The challenge is try to do it with the, least amount of money expended as possible, because we didn't have a budgeted amount for that in this current year or the year before. So currently, all the work that's ongoing is being done internally.
Can we budget money to get it done? Our citizens are going to other towns and, buying plots, or, we have people who are part of our, town, that are being, may not seem important to some people, but, there are people who prefer to be buried here, right here in the city limits, and there are those of us who do not have plots, that would like to buy plots.
And just for the record, the lack of funding that has been brought forward in terms of a budget certainly is not indicative of staff not thinking it's an important project. We
Well,
just,
My thing is, can we include money in the budget to get, to get some of these projects done? If it is.
yes, ma'am, it's gonna kick some other things out.
Mhm.
So I don't see a way to bring on some of those and keep everything we currently have. So absolutely, you can bring on any project, but it's gonna kick some other things out. Now, I haven't looked at the departmental request. I don't know what's in there yet, but certainly, I mean, I know that they're important projects because they're on the list and we look at them I hear what you all say every month, and also in your vision setting meetings, those projects that are important, and some of them obviously are gonna take much more money than we have in any one budget year.
And I know there are some that we can't, may not be able to do, but I'm concerned that we keep adding to this list rather than, when it started, I thought that was a way of making sure that we were staying on task with certain projects. But I noticed that it keeps going longer and longer. And
I
it
think
may
that's
be
a-
that it's council's problem, that they're going longer, because we do need to maybe allocate or do whatever it takes to get them done. But I really would like to think that, in the process of a year or two, we could knock one or two off this list, And
One of the,
that's why I brought it up.
yes, ma'am, and I'll be very honest, because I believe y'all want me to be. One of the things that would help tremendously is a prioritization of some of these projects. Because a challenge is, they're all important. And I realize that sometimes prioritizing certain projects may then make it look like some others aren't important, and that's not what I'm trying to bring forward. But if you tell me unequivocally, this is just, I'm just using this as an example because it's the one we're talking about, that you want to see the cemetery project, no matter what, completed in the 2021 or 2021-2022 budget, then that's what's going to happen. There's just going to be an alternate effect on something else.
But like minimum housing code enforcement.
That's never coming off.
Okay, so basically, we're gonna look at that every month.
We're looking at that every year. That's never coming off. Unless it's going to be looked at all the time and you want an actual report before council every quarter. then it doesn't have to be on there every month. But it's something that's gonna take resources, gonna take money, and that's something we're looking at every year.
Hello?
What about like new electric territory project? Is that, I'm trying to figure out, is that the project that we're looking at, forest paper and that kind of thing? Or is it the actual work on the project?
Okay, so electric service is going out in Eli's Ridge, that's new territory.
Yes.
So that's gonna be a long, I mean, part of it's being worked on now, but that's going to be a continual, long project until we extend service into that entire new territory. So maybe you would like to see less, the category's
And
not,
maybe some of these projects up here are projects that we do have that are ongoing.
most of
which I
them
know
are.
that they are, but, I just, like, the market plan, can we bring that to?
We can, and it's gonna take money, and it's just gonna, all I'm saying is, any of these can come forward, it's just gonna kick something else out. I mean, that's just the reality of it, so if council, you all prioritize it and tell me this is what you want to happen, we're gonna make it happen. That just means less of something else happens.
But just like with the market town common plan, that came about after the multi-purpose building.
But it's gonna be far
We
less,
have to decide whether we wanna do that before we do the multi-purpose building, right?
and you have to, well, I mean,
If we were to do priorities, we
if
would
you,
have to decide.
yes, and you'd have to understand that the market plan is gonna be much less expensive than the multipurpose facility. So then you've got the whole kind of gravity of the actual financial impact of the actual project itself. And the challenging part about that list, and I will say this, is that they're far from equal financially.
Yes.
So you've got like really big, really expensive ones, all the way down to, any expenditure of money is expensive, but all the way down to something much on a smaller scale. And the time it would take to get it done is a much smaller scale. So it's definitely not an even comparison, and I can understand the challenges that go along with that. So I'm willing to back up, just let me, if it would help council to do it differently and to plan differently, we're happy to do that.
I just would like to see us complete some of them, and, those that can be, quote, completed.
And the challenge is, what you see noted there, that's a drop in the bucket to what's happening, getting done, getting completed, but it's more, it would almost be impossible to list all of the projects.
Me personally, I would like to see them on a quarterly basis unless they're coming to the point that they have to come off.
Okay?
Yeah. That would kind of shorten it up if we see quarterly, because we kind of know what's going on, but if we bring it up quarterly, we kind of know where they're at, you know.
Well, what we could do is then take the list off, plan for quarterly reports. So
Right.
just that meeting where you have the quarterly reports just may take a little longer. But that way, departments can bring forward any and all large projects that they're working on. In addition, including the ones that you all have identified as projects that are, you know, top notch, top level importance. Does that help?
And I know that, you know, it may seem like, but I feel like this is the time to do it during the budget process, to decide on something like that. I would like to see us do a priority list.
So would I.
And that would, I mean, I don't mind it, I think that we do need to look at priorities here, because we have so many things up here, we have things up here that the council says that are important to them, but I don't feel like we as a council really make them very important.
And if I could, the vision setting meeting, that's really the whole sum total purpose of that meeting. And it's not for budgetary purposes specifically and only. So you set your vision. And part of that is to prioritize these projects that you identify as important to you as a council member, but collectively as the council. And obviously you can prioritize projects anytime you want to as council, but it's really helpful because that's what we deem the unofficial beginning of the budget process, even though it's not dubbed as a budget meeting. I still think a lot of people see it as a budget meeting, but it's really your vision setting. That's why I didn't call it a retreat, because that's sort of overused, but it's where you set your vision. And hopefully part of that includes, here are the list of important projects, but here's what we'd like to see happen in this order, and then that's a vote on by the council, a vote taken by council.
We didn't do that, right?
It's, we've tried to get there, but what happens, and it's challenging. So this is nothing other than stating how I understand how this stuff can be challenging. It's hard to pick and choose between important projects, particularly when they're so diverse in the way of financial commitment. But at some point, we've got to know what you want us to stop everything else and work on.
And I might be that everybody thinks I'm gloom and doom, but that cemetery expansion project really ranks up there as a high local concern for, I'm hearing a lot about it, with things being like, not that we're planning on leaving, but there are those in the community that find that, that's quite difficult for them to,
Absolutely.
have to make plans away. So that's one that I would like, we spent up there about 2 years, I think.
Well, and again, once I know what the council's priorities are, and if that's number one, I'll pull resources off of other things and put them on that specifically to make sure we're moving along. Obviously, staff's working on a multitude of projects that are all important, and their time, there's only a few of them, their time is stretched, but however, we know how to put forward a project and get it done. So it would help if council prioritized the projects so that we know how to allocate our time accordingly.
It's a lot of time, even with us, it's hard to determine the condition or to project exactly the need that you actually need to place something first. Just like, for instance, this pandemic. That was, if anybody had ever have told me that I would be living in an era or a time like we just recently experienced, I would think that they would be absolutely really crazy. But it happened. And, we lost, a lot of us local, lost a lot of loved ones. And what Ms. Robinson is stating is, if we could have had the foresight and knew that this right here was coming, we could have prepared ourselves a little bit better, because there is a great need for that, to expand the cemetery. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I think that would be a good project. I think that would be something, that a priority that we can at least start with and look at it very closely. Now, I still would like to know exactly what you would have to look at in order to take away. Like you said, everything that you have and everything that we do have is very important for our town and for our citizens. So, before that decision being made, I definitely would like to know.
That's all staff has tonight.
Yeah, that was it. We'll hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second it.
All in?
Mayor, we have a motion made by Councilman Smith, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Hines to adjourn the meeting. With that, any discussion? With that said, I will poll the board, starting with Councilwoman Robertson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hines,
Yes.
Councilman Moy,
Yes.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Councilman Moore.
Yes.
All right, folks, thank you very much for your time this evening. Have a great night.
Finish, Lee. Come back in here. Come in here.
Folks,